Sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. Everything that's wonderful is what I feel when.
Hey everyone, my name is Julian Garcia, and I am here to talk to you today about something that has been on my heart for a long time, and it's something that we practice, or at least try to practice all the time. I'm here with my fiancé,
Kathryn.
and we started a podcast called Walk After Falling Podcast. So where better to film this video in our kind of makeshift studio here. You can see Walk After Falling right up above our heads here, because it's something that we really believe is a mantra for us and that we live by. But going a little bit deeper with that, just to kind of share a little bit more about myself. So it wasn't until recently that I am in a lot of the roles that I carry out today. I used to work for Trinity Christian College in the admissions office, and had a great time just working with families and students and helping them find their place and their role in that season of their life. And Kathryn, what do you do?
I am a graduate counseling intern, and I also go to Trinity Christian College. I'm getting my master's there.
Awesome. So with that said, that leads us into what I do today. And today what I do is I'm a brand strategist for an agency downtown Chicago called Fusion 92. I also produce this podcast and co-host it with Kathryn, which is the Walk After Falling podcast. And then we also have worked for our church in the West Loop, Soul City Church. Shout out to them. That is where we met each other, and we have really lived into the topic that I'm going to be covering today. One last thing is that we are going to really show you what it's like to be a part of our podcast and how we run it. So Kathryn's kind of going to be the host today, and I'm going to be the person she's interviewing. So what we like to do is just create a space for people to show their true vulnerability. And that is the topic I'm going to cover. I view, and you can chime in at any point, I view vulnerability as a muscle. I believe that it's something that has to be broken down in order to be built back up even stronger. A lot of us deal with just so many things: self-doubt. What are some other things? Shame, rejection. So a lot of us have similarities in these ways, but how we deal with them are all different. So what I want to do is show you three different ways. Really, it's three different pillars that we live by, and we use this to ask people and guide our conversations, so that way they can be able to use them as checkpoints in every season of their life. Because what you start to realize is that your reward for getting through one season is just another season. It's just another challenge that you have to walk through. And that's what we want to show you, is that you are walking through this process and you have people alongside you. But in order to do that, you have to become vulnerable and allow yourself to be broken down so you can come and get back up again. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to have Kathryn start asking me some questions, and we're just going to see how it goes. Be as organic and vulnerable as possible. So Kathryn, go ahead and ask me them questions.
All right.
That was weird.
So, Julian, when it comes to vulnerability, where do you feel like you have fallen short?
Where do I feel like I have fallen short when it comes to vulnerability? I think that for most of us, but myself personally, it's this thing of trying to figure everything out by myself. It's in a way where it's like I don't want to share with anybody until I've exhausted all of the options that I know I can do, right? Yeah. So it's this sense of I don't always want to use the word pride, and because I don't never want to admit that I can be prideful,
which is pride in and of itself.
Which is pride of itself. So one of the biggest things is that just calling it out. I think really calling out what you're feeling in the moment is so important. So if I'm feeling prideful in that way of not wanting to share what I'm going through with other people because I want to discover it or own it or solve the problem by myself, then that's pride. And that's something that I have to call out and be vulnerable about. So right there is where I feel like I fall short.
Yeah.
Is not wanting to burden other people and put my problems on other people.
Yeah. And it's calling it out in a way, not a shaming way, but like knowing that you can make the higher call.
Exactly.
In it.
Exactly.
So what do you feel like when it comes to pride and vulnerability specifically,
Right.
pride kind of holding you back from that?
Mhm.
What is your like main damaging thought that keeps you from being vulnerable, that keeps pride in the driver's seat?
Mm. That I'll never be able to do anything on my own.
Mm.
And I think that leads to this feeling of being incapable.
Mhm.
I think it thinking that way opens a lot of doors to a lot of negative thoughts. So it's not, one damaging thought can be a gateway, right? We talk about things like there are gateway drugs, there
Mhm.
are little doors or little things that we do that open us to a whole world of destruction in some ways,
Yeah.
right? But that could be flipped on its own and say, hey, if I start just thinking positive in this one area, if I just go to my fiance and say, hey, I'm dealing with this issue,
Yeah.
that could be a gateway to some more liberation, to finding yourself a little bit more, to healing in those ways. A year ago, I was dealing with so much self doubt. Our first episode was about my story. And you can see through all of the episodes we've done, I think I did another one recently that was just more about how much I have grown and leaning into the seasons instead of trying to find a workaround.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I really answered your question there, but the
No.
damaging thought, I mean, it could be anything, but I think that feeling of being incapable is what really gets it started for me and takes
Yeah.
me down a road that is just hard to come back from sometimes.
Yeah.
So that would be the damaging thought.
Yeah. And to kind of combat that damaging thought,
Mhm.
what is your true north when it comes to overcoming pride and embracing vulnerability?
Knowing that I have people like you, people who love me and don't judge me and will, lift me up when I'm down.
Yeah.
I think it's really leaning into that, leaning
Yeah.
into community is a huge thing. And I know sometimes community can be a buzzword, but truly look around you. Who is always there asking you how you are, what they can do for you. And if you feel like you can't call anybody out on that, maybe it's something that you're not doing to show yourself that, hey, I need your friendship, I need relationship with you. Maybe you act like me and you feel like being in solitude and being alone is the best possible way to deal with your feelings. And I can tell you, it feels good for such a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And most of the time you sit there wondering, like, why am I just sitting here and life is passing me by? And I feel all of this hurt and pain, and it just keeps building on one after the other. Every thought builds on it. And it's because we try so hard not to let ourselves be broken down. We think that if we tell somebody how we feel, it makes us weaker. And that's true to a certain extent, I think, because when you think about working out, and I mean, this one in a CrossFit gym, I've never seen anything like it. But from being a swimmer and just working out in general, that to build muscles, they have to be broken down. They have to be like interrogated. You know what I mean? Like they have to be
Ruptured.
Exactly. And then you start to notice that the tissue comes back even stronger. It builds on itself in a whole different way, a way that you would have never thought. So think about your life right now and where you are and what is keeping you from just opening yourself up. Maybe saying, you know what, for this moment, I can lean into that feeling of, hey, I might be weak for this moment, but I'll be stronger in the long run. Like we say, walk after falling. It's not about getting back up and 0 to 100 and running. It's about getting back up and just walking, taking a slow pace.
What words of affirmation would you give to someone who is struggling with being vulnerable?
Right. Through my own journey, I realized that, once you go through something so rough and tough, you get to a space of peace for just a moment, and whether that moment lasts longer for some or longer for others, that's just the way life works sometimes. But you have to realize that there's going to be another season to go to. Like I said, every reward for a challenge is just another challenge. So if we take the pressure off of ourselves and understand that in the moment, it's okay to be weak and be vulnerable. Just knowing that you're going to come back out of it so much stronger. So I just want to encourage you to remember that weakness is only for a moment. But when you're strong, it's because you're letting yourself become vulnerable and you're building up that muscle in yourself. And you're building yourself up to be somebody to pass that on to as well. So thank you for listening and hope you guys enjoyed.
Thank you for joining us for the 2021 Train of Positivity Virtual Summit. If you have enjoyed this positive message, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. If sharing, please don't forget to use the hashtag Train of Positivity. Continue to have a great day, and thanks again for tuning in.